Hello, welcome to the finals of the Medium Games tournament between J True Piano and S Sounder. These two players fought their way through a group stage and some tough semifinal matchups against pretty good players, and now they're here in the finals. So we'll see who takes home the title of Medium Games player. We've got some cards here. You've got Trashing with Ratcatcher and Counterfeit, so you can trash. I guess Taxpan as well. We've got Draw with Destrier and Ranger. We've got Actions with Squire, which is not the greatest source of actions, but between Destrier and Ranger, we have lots of draw, and Squire gets you buys, Ranger gets you draw, so Destrier should be pretty plentiful. Road Network is pretty interesting in terms of how you green. If the other player is Road Network, you want to try to green, with provinces and not have to catch up on duchies when that'll give them something. So it's kind of important to not let your opponent get too big of an early lead. Seize the day is also really important. You want to try to seize the day on the turn. As much as you can, you want to try to seize the day on your next to last turn and then win on the seize the day turn. That's not always possible. But something like Road Network, it might be interesting to seize the day, get a bunch of green, and then buy Road Network before your opponent has a chance to. And then when they try to catch up, they'll draw you big cards. The 5-2 here seems very, very strong for Counterfeit Ratcatcher. Those are the two cards I want to get as soon as possible to start thinning. So nice opening there for Jay. S Sounders opens with Improve Ratcatcher. I guess Improve Ratcatcher's fine. I'm looking to get something that looks like a silver, and Improve seems like it fits the bill. I wonder if Monument or Silver is any better. It seems certainly too early for like a Ranger. Although there's always some logic to trying to get a Ranger fairly early, and then when you draw with the Ranger, you don't have many other actions in deck. You just draw treasures, and you could afford to get like a Counterfeit, or maybe you've already bought a Counterfeit and you can grab something else. But really, the first turn you play Ranger is no good. Maybe you hit three with it, and the extra buy doesn't do anything. So I think I'm okay with Squire Improve. S Sounder gets the Counterfeit as soon as they can, which is good. They keep the Improve, which makes sense. We may be looking to improve Rangers into Destriers later, or maybe if you have a bunch of Destriers, you can improve those. Or maybe the Improve is just a nice silver. Maybe once your third Ratcatcher, once you've trashed all your states, you turn that Ratcatcher into Improve itself, and then turn the Improve into a Ranger once you have some village support, things like that. So they both get a couple more Improves. I don't want to get too many Improves here. Most of my terminal space I want to be spent playing Rangers. And so we're hitting 5 here. Probably I would take a second Counterfeit. Getting thin seems important, plus buys seem important with Destriers. Especially with those two Counterfeits, you can feel more comfortable buying coppers to enable you to buy Destriers for cheaper. For example, if you Counterfeit 2 coppers, that gets you to 6. You could buy like a couple of coppers. 2 Counterfeits, 3 coppers gets you to 7. Trashing 2 coppers, you could buy 2 coppers and 2 Destriers or something like that. Repeat that a couple times. All of a sudden, you got a big stack of Destriers you're drawing pretty nicely. Jay already trashed the Ratcatcher. I guess they picked up a second one. I guess they picked up a second one, or they'll look to pick up a second one soon. That seemed early to trash that Ratcatcher. I really would like to thin all 3 estates. Because Squire doesn't draw and Ranger is a little bit awkward, you want to try to, as much as possible, have a thin deck so that you start with as many Destriers in hand, and you try to find a Squire and pair that with a Ranger. To that end, I may want to consider going more in on Destriers, although it's tough to get a ton of Destriers early without polluting your deck. Hence the discussion I had about the Counterfeit. So Squire, and they do buy the Ratcatcher back. So this is 7. So this could be like Squire Destrier, Counterfeit Squire. That's their second counterfeit, so that makes some sense. We're seeing both the estates here for Jay, so looks like they're not going to be able to trash these estates for a while, so that Ratcatcher is going to sit out, but it's kind of the nice thing about the Ratcatcher, can just sit in the sidelines until it needs to trash. I probably would take a Ranger here as Jay. I think it's a touch early to take 2 Rangers, but those are the cards you want to start adding to the deck. Maybe I take Ranger Squire here. I turn the Improve into Ranger and buy a Squire, or I just buy a Ranger and keep the Improve a bit longer. It's somewhat unfortunate with only 2 estates in deck, drawing them at the top here. Hitting $4 seems pretty unlikely with the deck. Jay's going to hit 5s and 6s the rest of this shuffle, the next 2 hands, so they can start to consider, if they can get maybe 2 Rangers this turn, and the next turn if they can get like Squire Destrier, they'll have another Squire in the shuffle with those Rangers, maybe even like 2 Squires and 2 Destriers over the next 2 turns, especially with 2 counterfeits, more coppers down there. Getting something like Copper, Squire, Destrier seems feasible. And again, the coppers are somewhat annoying, but mitigated by counterfeit and Destrier. The way you think about it is, basically, if you buy Copper Destrier, it's draw neutral. So the Destrier is like a laboratory, except it's only drawing that new copper. But if you can then trash that copper to counterfeit, you've got the Destrier without that extra cost. The problem of that is, it is slightly, there's a little bit more variance there. It's not just like that's free. You could draw that Destrier near the top of the shuffle. You could draw it near the bottom when you really want to see the copper. They took just 1 silver. I don't think they really need money quite yet. I think Squires can gain money if you need them to, but we'll see. We'll see. So this is Improve. I'm probably going to improve into a Destrier. So like take Squire Destrier here, and then turn the Improve into a Destrier. Since the Destriers will cost 4 at that point. See, now you can't improve into the Destrier, although with 2 Squires, I think you could safely improve it into a Ranger. You've added enough village support now that you should be okay with getting rid of the Improve. Not quite sure. Jay seems to like the Improves. I certainly would be looking to turn them into something. I also would be looking to save that Ratcatcher and counterfeit that copper. Since I do have 2 estates to shuffle, I want to get rid of. And they can't quite go double Destrier here. They could go Squire, another Destrier. Although for them, I'm looking to add Rangers now with all the Squires that they've got. They can't add 2 Rangers quite either, but or Ranger Destrier, and they're 1 coin short of that. They're adding a lot more treasure than I'm comfortable with here until you've gotten a whole bunch more Destriers. I'd certainly want to be thinning a little bit more solidly, but we'll see. We'll see if that pays off. It just doesn't seem like they're drawing that. I think I would want to have a bunch of Rangers by now. If all these Improves were Rangers at this point, you'd be, able to draw quite a few more cards. Like this turn, I'm very much looking to turn this Improve into a Ranger and buy a Ranger. Or possibly improve into a Destrier and buy a Ranger, something like that. S Sounder gets Squire, Destrier, turns Improve into Ranger. That I quite like. Yeah, I mean, I think I would take as S Sounder, Squire, and 2 Rangers now. It's a lot more Squires, I think, than they fully need. So Squire, buy Squire, Ranger, and then improve into Ranger. Although you could make an argument to improve into Destrier as well. So as Sounders got their token down, they can play the Squire for action. They can draw. I don't really like using rat catchers on coppers. I think I'm saving them on the mat until I see my estates. I don't really need to trash the coppers that much. I've got counterfeits to trash them, where I get an extra coin out of it, as opposed to trashing with Ratcatcher. I get basically 0 coins versus 2 trashing with counterfeit. I realize that's not perfectly accurate, because obviously you have to draw them to do that. But and a center takes another Squire, and I mean it's consistent with what they're doing right now to take another Ranger as well, just to try to guarantee that you see Squire and Ranger in the opening 5. The point I was making earlier was with Squire Ranger, with Smithy Village, you have to see a village in the first 5 cards, and you have to see a Smithy in the first 6 cards, because you could actually draw the Smithy off of the village. With Squire Ranger, you have to see both a Squire and a Ranger in your first 5 cards to kick off. And then you actually have to see a Squire and 2 Rangers in your next 5 cards, to keep drawing. Although that's why I wanted to mitigate that with some number of Destriers that you could draw through. So Destriers you could either play at the beginning of the turn, or at the beginning, or off that next 5 to try to get that going. So here, Jade Trupiano is going to have 9, it looks like, counterfeiting the copper. That's my guess. I assume the Squire should be buys. With 9 and 4 buys, they can do some fairly fun stuff. I wonder how crazy it would be. I mean, I'm sure this is crazy, but it would be potentially interesting to grab a beggar on this kingdom with the idea that I'm going to play that beggar once, and I'm going to get, on the turn that I get all the Destriers, because beggar is 3 gains, all the Destriers. I'm going to try to counterfeit those coppers immediately that turn as well, and use that to get the Destriers. Then I only need to play the beggar once or twice in the game. But this turn they got 2 Destriers. If they played a beggar, they could have gotten 4 Destriers and added those 3 coppers, sure. And they had to waste a buy and beggar, but I think I don't know, it's fun to consider. Maybe it is crazy. And they're just going to get, they actually took a silver and then bought 2 Destriers. Yeah, I mean, I really want to add to the Destrier draw with Rangers. So maybe you go primary Destrier draw, and then you have three Rangers or something like that, just to supplement. The primary Ranger draw, which Jess Sounder is doing, you see, is quite difficult to get going. Although this is quite unfortunate shuffle, as they've seen 5 Squires in the top 10. But for Jay, if they had just a couple of Rangers, throughout the shuffle, even just 2 Rangers, they'll likely see 1 in the top half, which they can draw, and they'll be able to draw their deck and play the other Ranger for duration. We have to be a little bit careful here with the Squires for the buys. Jay Trupiano can take 2 buys here, 2 buys, counterfeit something, buy 3 rat catchers, Destrier, seize the day, and potentially buy 3 rat catchers and Duchy next turn. I don't think they're quite there, but it is very, very close to that pile out. That pile out costs, the cost is slightly difficult to compute with the Destrier. They've got to seize the day, which is 4, and Duchy, and they don't know what they're going to draw next turn, but I know they've got a lot of Destriers in their deck, and they have not seen, they've only seen 2 of them. So they should have a bunch more Destriers down there. So they take 2 Squires for buys, that's 3. Let's say they counterfeit a silver, 8, 9, 11. So they could buy, let's see, if they buy 3 rat catchers, that's 6, seize the day is 4. They would need to buy a copper, 3 rat catchers, copper, Destrier, seize the day, and then try to hit 11 and 4 buys next turn to get Duchy, or 10 and 5 buys. I think it's too risky here. I'm trying to track both players' decks. If Jay Trupiano is tracking their own deck perfectly accurately, they may think they have if they've got 4 Destriers down there, a Squire, a Counterfeit, an Estate, a Silver, something like that, they may be able to count it out and count. It would not surprise me. Do they still have an Improve? The Improve can help that somehow. They can improve something into something. Not 100% sure what they end up improving, actually. Because by the end of that big turn, the Destrier pile is going to cost very little. If they can improve, I don't think they'll have gained at least 4 cards. So Improve is probably not going to be useful for the pile out line. But I would very strongly want to go for it. And if I'm not going to go for it, I would very strongly consider like Road Network Duchy. Feeling like my deck is stronger. I don't feel like they're in a position where they can win. I don't know. I mean, I feel like you have to be slightly concerned. You didn't see S-Sounder did play all 3 Squires last turn, but they've got a couple more. If they play 2 Squires for actions, man, we can even look up gains of Squire. We can see. Sometimes people gain 2 Squires. It looks like Jay has. Oh, it would be buys and gains a Squire. 2. So Jay has 4 Squires to S-Sounder's 6. So if S-Sounder plays 3 Squires for actions, they can draw 10 into this next shuffle. They'll have 2 Counterfeits. They'll be able to see some more Squires, potentially. They do have some Destriers down there, I believe. So they can potentially draw a deck, or close to draw a deck next turn, and put themselves in this position to take the pile out with Seize the Day. Yeah, the problem if you take Seize the Day now and you don't win, then I think you're just in a real bad spot. 3 Ratcatchers, Copper, Destrier, Seize the Day at the line. I'm strongly considering. We'll see if they're going for it here, or if they're gonna bow out. And, you could also do Province, Province Improve, Province something. Province Silver feels pretty lame here if you're not gonna get there. I think in this position they can go for it. I think they've got 4 Destriers down there. So they're going to draw a ton of cards. They've got Counterfeit, they've got a Squire, and Improve. They've got quite a bit of money. They just need to find one of these 4 sources of plus buy, Square, or Counterfeit. And if they can find Counterfeit, even they can Counterfeit, Silver, and that's a fairly easy way to go. So they could also consider taking the Duchy now. Like Duchy, Ratcatcher, Seize the Day. But I think I would take advantage of all the plus buys now, if they're going to go for it. I'm not really sure what to do if you don't go for it. I guess you could just get like a Province and a Silver, and your deck is better, and you're not that worried about your opponent seizing the day, emptying the Destrier for 6 Ratcatchers, and buying a Province to catch up for you. Seems somewhat tough for them to do that. But, if they do, then you've lost the game. I'm fairly certain Jay has like 6 or 7 Destriers, 2 Coppers, 2 Ratcatchers. I assume this is going to be Undo. They didn't need the second Copper. They could have gotten a Ratcatcher. And then, yeah, I assume they're going to Undo here. This is a fine Undo to ask for. The Destrier stuff is super complicated, and okay, so they passed up a free Ratcatcher in exchange for a Copper, which seems like not a good trade. But I'm fairly certain here, looking at what we're seeing, that this is actions, buys, coins, They're getting to 13 here pretty easily. Yeah, they might even be getting to 16 if they take buys, counterfeit, silver, silver. They might even be emptying estates here. If this estate was one, a copper was a rat catcher, this would certainly be a lot easier of a pile out. But well done by Jay. They correctly tracked to seize the day. They looked at their deck. They realized that they had a very strong chance, possibly not 100% guaranteed, but very strong chance of the win there. And they took it. They seized the day, and they get the win in the first game as their first player. So we move on to game 2 with Jay Trupiano up 1-0.